Hey guys, today we're looking back at some of your favourite relationship drama stories from last year. Buying a house in today's market is almost impossible for those under 30, but Opie somehow managed to do it, only to have her future husband try to get his grubby hands on it. Am I the a-hole for putting my foot down and not adding my husband to the deed? Posted by The Brown Hamster. Background: I, 29 female, have known and been with my husband, 33 male, for the past 4 years, married for 2. I started working when I was 21, right after my bachelor's degree. After 2 years of working, I bought myself a house. Nothing fancy, I bought the land and built the house. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-floor house. Wow, you bought a house after 2 years of working? What the hell do you do? The construction of my house finished in 2019, before I met my husband. He lived in a different country, so when he visited me, I took him to see my house. I'm very proud of it. It's something I built with my own money. I own it, however small. After our wedding, I moved to the country where he lived. We split our bills and rent equally. We both work in IT and earn pretty good money. So we're planning on buying a house together, and we found a place that we liked and can afford. We're putting both our names on the deed because we're both paying for it. The problem arose when he said he wanted his name added to the house that I bought by myself. I'm not comfortable doing that, and I said so. He said it's unfair that I now have 2 and he only has part of one. I said that was his bad for not buying a house before. I bought that house before I even knew he existed and with my own money. Since he had no contribution to it, I'm not obligated to make him feel good by adding him to the deed. He then called his family. While his sister and brother-in-law support me, his mum and dad said that it's not about money, it's about the togetherness and it should be for the both of us or none. I said, I'm sorry, but that's not happening. He will never be on the deed even if he pays his share, which he and his family think he shouldn't because it's ours, not mine or his. Because I know how much I struggled to buy that house and make it happen. Now his mum and dad are saying I disrespected them by saying this. Am I the a-hole? Expressing a boundary isn't disrespectful, and it's concerning that they would say that. Edit 1. Both of us are from the same country. We're on a visa in a different country and we work there. We're planning to buy a house where we work on visa. We're allowed to do that. We're planning to stay for 5 more years at least, so buying a house is logical. In my country, we don't have a prenup culture. I did tell him earlier that this was mine and I wouldn't ever give it up to anyone, unless I'm dead, in which case it will either go to my kids, if I have any, or to charity. Edit 2. Because someone pointed this out, my husband's family has generational wealth. I don't. He's never depended on me for anything. We're married because we love each other. It has nothing to do with money, at least not in my case. Edit 3. I'm sorry if it looks like I'm entitled when I said that I bought the land from my dad in a comment. I did buy it for him real cheap, but I paid off all the construction costs, material costs, and labour all by myself. I even plastered and painted the walls myself when I was a little low on money. I cut the tiles myself, mixed paint, and watered the cement. So hell yeah, I'm proud of and have emotional attachment to that place. Buying a house is a huge accomplishment, particularly these days. Opie should be super proud, and I don't blame her for wanting to hold on to it. Down in the comments, Not Yet Effing Problem says, you have a serious husband problem. First, no, it's your house. He didn't contribute anything to it, so no, don't add him to the deed. But second, he called his family to push you into what he wanted. Yeah, this was a bit of a red flag for me too. It's weird to think it's fair when he contributed nothing to it and then goes to his family to pressure you into something you're not comfortable with. God, some people are just so demanding. Oh, by the way, don't forget to subscribe. My boyfriend wanted to do an IQ test to prove how intellectually superior he was, posted by Cynthia13. When I was 17, I had a boyfriend who was very pretentious. I personally always found that funny, so I didn't mind. However, he was hell-bent on proving just how much more intelligent he was than me. One day, he was bragging about an online IQ test he did and how smart he was. He begged me to do one as well. However, I had just smoked and was high, so I refused. But after more begging, I decided, why not? It could be fun. Despite being high, I scored higher on the IQ test. He was so pissed. It was hilarious. He never bragged about his IQ test again. Another time, he really wanted to show off by playing chess against me. I'm really bad at the game, and I told him so. But I knew people who were good, and they gave me the advice to never have a pawn that was not protected by another. So I did just that. Halfway through, I had captured most of his pawns, and he rage quit at chess. He flipped the board and broke some of his pieces. Needless to say, a week or two after, we were no longer together. I made him too insecure, and he went back to an ex who he'd called extremely stupid. At least he gave me a lot of laughing material for years to come. I think my sister-in-law was planning to ruin my wedding. Posted by Some Blood 634. I, 25 female, am getting married to my husband, 27 male, in summer of this year. His sister has never really liked me, and I don't know why. I've made a few attempts to talk to her when we were dating. She never wanted to talk or hang out, and she's made snide remarks. When my fiance would do things with me, she'd get irritated. It was like she didn't want me near him. I even tried to include her in the wedding planning, but she turned me down. So I really don't care to talk to her or get to know her. Last week, I was talking with my mum and mother-in-law about flower arrangements and invitations. She came over, took what I'd drawn up, and looked at them weirdly. She asked, "The guests are wearing white?" I nodded, and she said, "Isn't that supposed to be for the bride?" I told her that as I got older, I didn't want to wear white and wanted to go for a different colour. She put the invite down and left. Over the next week, I felt like she was trying to pry and see what colour I was wearing. I told her I wanted it to be a surprise, but she would not let it go. I'm keeping my dress at my mum's house, and everyone from both of our families were there. My mum was talking about how pretty my dress is, and that she cried when she saw me in it. I asked her if it was in a safe place, and she said, of course. My sister-in-law excused herself to the bathroom. I went inside after to let my best friend and niece in, and saw my sister-in-law coming down the stairs. I asked her what she was doing, and she looked like she'd been caught. She said, "I was just looking for the bathroom." I said, "The bathroom's right there. You walked right past it." She apologized and went outside. I was talking to my best friend and told her how weird she's been acting, and she said, "Girl, she was definitely planning on wearing white to your wedding and ruin your day. You stopped that plan in its tracks." And now I'm starting to think she was right. Also, I wanted to say, the room the dress was in was locked, so there's no way she could have gotten in, and she didn't see it. This dress is really near and dear to my heart because it's my favourite colour, and it was my brother's favourite colour, and he passed away. I'd be completely heartbroken if she saw it and decided to ruin the day that's supposed to be happy. For the bachelorette party, I didn't want her there, but since I'm having it a month before the wedding, I'm thinking about inviting her. I'm going to take advice from the comment section about asking all the people at my party to not wear a specific colour, like green, because I want to wear it, and see if she turns up wearing that colour. If she rocks up in the colour you specifically asked the guests not to wear, she'll get all the shade without actually getting to take the spotlight off you. Also, she seems a little too possessive of her brother, especially if she wants to dress up as his bride. My ex-husband and I are having a baby. Posted by Pink Dress 1. We've been divorced for about a year, and we have 3 kids, ranging from 5 to 10 years old. We've gotten along great since the divorce, better than when we were married. It's almost like we're friends. We can do things with our kids and enjoy being around each other. About 2 months ago, our youngest unexpectedly ended up having surgery and spent several nights in the hospital. He's fine now. My ex-husband and I stayed together with our son the entire time he was in the hospital. When he was discharged, my ex-husband came back to my house, our former family home, at my son's request. He was just meant to spend a few hours there, help our son get settled, and then go home. However, I guess all the emotions and being together as a family in our formerly shared home got the better of us, and we ended up having sex twice that night. Now, I'm 9 weeks pregnant. I wasn't on birth control. I've intentionally remained single for a while, so I was giving my body a break from birth control. Initially, we were undecided about what to do, but As of last weekend, we made the decision together to have the baby. It feels sort of crazy to me. Definitely not a situation I ever imagined I'd find myself in. I already picture this baby looking just like our other kids. I guess that's why I struggled with the idea of not continuing with the pregnancy, which I know isn't really a valid reason to have a baby. This is probably the last baby I'll ever have. I'm 39, so if I was to meet a man who I trusted enough to want to have a child with and a future with, I'll be well into my 40s by then. I plan to be very picky, and I'm not even at the point where I want to find someone new yet. We're not getting back together, for now. We get along great when we're not married and living in the same house. We feel it'd be irresponsible to all of our children to attempt to get back together right now, just because of this. The chances are better that we'll be able to co-parent this baby successfully if we live separately. However, we are committed to working together to do whatever needs to be done to take care of our baby when he or she gets here. Our kids are doing great right now, and they seem very happy and secure with the current setup of our lives and homes, so we want to stick with this for now. I don't know if I really understand what I'm getting myself into. Our other kids were all born into a marriage and a two-parent home. I know that sharing custody of a baby will be a lot different than the kids going back and forth between homes. I might be feeling too positive about it, but I think it could work out fine. The new baby would just see it as normal, right? The next thing to worry about will be having to explain this to everyone when we tell them. My family and friends will get over it, but I'm especially concerned with explaining it to our kids. I'm worried our eldest won't take the news well. She knows what sex is and how babies are made. And for everyone concerned about his girlfriend, she's not his girlfriend anymore. Am I the a-hole for calling my husband an incel? Posted by a throwaway account. Some background. I, 23 female, have been with my husband, 23 male, for about 4 years. Only about 6 months married. I love him dearly and he's a very sweet guy. He's pretty conservative, we differ in that regard, and most of his male friends are as well. Back in college a few years ago, my husband and some of his friends started following this conservative male influencer on social media. This man's whole shtick was essentially shaming random men on the internet for simping for their girlfriends/wives. How did he do this? Fans would send him photos of random straight couples, which he would screenshot and draw green lines over, indicating which directions the men and women in the photo were leaning. If the woman was standing up straight in the photo, and her man was leaning in towards her, the influencer would dub the man a simp and post the photo online for everyone to make fun of. The ideal photo, in the influencer's opinion, was one where the man was standing up straight and his woman was leaning into him. Anything else and the man was a simp who could not control his woman. Yes, this is 100% real. Obviously, I didn't love that my now husband was a fan of this influencer, but he reassured me that it was all a joke and that he didn't actually believe anything this guy said. I believed him until I started to notice that when we would take pictures together, my husband was always pulling away from me and attempting to have me lean into him. At first I brushed it off, but it kept happening. This irritated me because I don't particularly love my side profile, but I was being forced to turn to my side and lean into him every single photo we were taking. I would try to pull away so I could face the camera head on, but he would pull me back in or refuse to move. I confronted him about it a few times, but he always said he wasn't doing anything and that I was making it up. I brushed this off for a while, and over time, as our relationship progressed, we weren't taking as many photos anyway. But this all came to a head last weekend when we were visiting his family for Christmas. My husband was saying how him and I don't have enough recent photos together, so his sister offered to take one for us. We posed for the photo, me facing straight ahead with his arm around me. But once again, I noticed he was trying to angle me sideways and pull himself away from me. I got frustrated and stepped away, saying I no longer wanted the photo. He asked me why, and I told him that he was doing the thing that he always did, forcing me to have a side profile when all I wanted was a normal, straight-on photo. I asked him if he could please let me take a photo facing the camera, and his answer shocked me. He said he didn't like it when I was facing the camera, and he was leaning more into me because, and I quote, "our green lines were bad." I'm 100% serious. My husband didn't want me to have a flattering photo because he thought that according to this influencer, it would make him look like a simp. I asked him if he was serious, and he said yes. This is where I'm probably the a-hole. I got so frustrated and accused him of prioritizing the opinions of some random incel over those of his own wife. I then said that he needed to stop being an incel himself and take one single normal photo with me. He got very angry that I insinuated that he was being an incel and refused to take any photos with me. I later apologized for what I said, but he's been short with me ever since. I know what I said was inappropriate, but I just can't believe that he won't take a normal photo with me. So, am I the a-hole, or is he? Okay, so I read the title and was like, how the F is your husband an incel? I mean, he's married, right? But oh my god, yeah, he might not actually be an incel, but this is such incel energy!
Posted by Ms. Pia. I, 26 female, am considering moving out / breaking up with my boyfriend, 30 male, because he convinced me to move in with him, and then moved his whole family in as well. I've been dating my boyfriend since 2019, and became serious in 2021. We were living in different states at the time, and he would always ask me to move in with him. I've always refused because I wanted to be married before sharing a home with a man. Fast forward to 2023, he convinced me that we should get married, at least in the court, and we'd move in together in his home state, Maryland. I was living in Georgia at the time, and I was adamant about not moving until we were married. March, he finally got through to me, and I accepted to move in with him. A couple weeks before I moved, he mentioned that some of his family members would be moving in with him for a couple weeks. I wasn't okay with this, but since I'd already broken my lease, I didn't have a choice. Finally, I moved in March, and I was extremely uncomfortable. His family's from abroad, so they've yet to get acclimated, and I completely understand that he's their only support for now. His family consists of his mum, his dad, his brother's wife and kid, his sister and his aunt. I've been living with them since March, and I'm miserable. They don't respect boundaries. Although his name and my name are on the lease, they think it's their place. Always walking into my room without knocking, and his mum actually saw me naked because she just barged into my room when I was about to go in the shower. I've discussed this with him so many times. He claims it will eventually change, but I promise you it won't. He makes excuses that they're naturally mean. They're not being mean towards me. When I'm in the kitchen, I'm being watched, although I purchased the groceries. There is so much more, which would take hours for me to explain. I feel like I should not be experiencing all this. I'm so depressed. I spend 90% of my time hiding in my room so I don't have to see them. As a girlfriend, I shouldn't be in this mess. But now I understand. The main reason I was asked to come was so that I could help pay some of the bills, because he had to rent out a bigger space so everyone could have their own room. Oh, and another thing, I suggested I'd move out, and he said he'd move out with me if I really didn't want to stay. But we'd have to pay double the bills, and he suggested that we move somewhere that's in close walking distance so his family can have access to the place. How should I approach this? What would you do in this situation? I've never heard the phrase, "they're naturally mean." Is that like when someone says they're brutally honest? No, Sarah, you're just a bee. So this whole situation's a bit sus. He rented out a bigger place to fit everyone. That means he lied to you about them being only there for a few months, and intentionally didn't mention it at all until you broke your lease. He's just using you to fund his family. Run, girl, run! And oh my god, you have to pay double the bills and still be close to his family so they can keep violating your boundaries? Move out without him. You can be free. I'm gonna make a guess that he's actually got no feelings for this girl at all. He's just using her purely for the money and potentially even a green card. I wonder if he's already secretly starting another long distance relationship with his next meal ticket.
Am I the a-hole for marrying my sister's ex? Posted by Major Contact 4009. Me and my sister have been fighting recently for something that I thought got resolved a long time ago. A couple of months ago, I married my husband, Greg, 29 male, after being together for 4 years. We met each other working at the same office, and I developed a huge crush on him. I was pretty sure he was into me too, so I decided to bring it up to my sister, Alicia. Alicia and Greg had dated back in middle school when they were both 13, and because it was so long ago, and at such a young age, I didn't think that would be an issue, but I still wanted to check. I didn't want to accidentally start dating some long-lost love of hers or something, so I thought I'd clear the air by asking. She seemed a bit surprised because I don't think she was expecting to hear about her middle school ex-boyfriend randomly so many years later, but after we talked to her a bit, she said she didn't really care. So I thought, cool, I have to go ahead. I thanked her and moved on with things, and a little while later, me and Greg got together. It's never seemed to be an issue before recently. We hit all the milestones and she seemed to be happy for us. When he met my family again, they were a bit surprised, but things were fine. My sister was even one of my bridesmaids and seemed happy for me the entire time. I mean, she's a husband at this point, so it doesn't seem like a middle school boyfriend would be something to dwell on. This Christmas, we're with my family and things were fine, as usual, until my sister started handing out the presents she'd brought. She didn't get me anything. Now, we don't get each other presents every year, and people in my family typically aren't buying special presents for people they're not close to, but during my wedding planning, she said she wanted to get me something special for my first Christmas as a married woman, so it took me off guard. I was sort of confused for a second, but I didn't want to make drama on Christmas, so I just smiled and watched everyone open their gifts. There's lots of reasons why someone might not be able to get a gift, so it was fine. But after she finished handing things out, she looked at me and said I wasn't getting anything because I'd taken enough. I asked her what she meant because, And she said that I plotted to take Greg from her. I'll admit, I had a crush on him when I was 11, but I didn't plan my life around dating him one day. I grabbed her and pulled her into the other room, and we started yelling at each other. I definitely said some nasty things because if she had an issue, why didn't she say so when I directly asked her? We both left my parents' house early and her husband seemed pissed. My mum texted that she was disappointed we'd fought on Christmas, which, yeah, I get, but it's not like I did it intentionally. She's telling whatever family members will listen about how I stole her boyfriend and now they're all mad at me. I don't feel like I could be the a-hole, but I'm not sure. Greg's super pissed because she keeps trying to message him about this and he doesn't get why this is an issue. I tried to speak with her a couple times and brought up how I already asked her for permission, but she says I took her off guard. So, am I the a-hole? She was taken off guard for the 4 years you were together? This is so weird. I feel like there's gotta be something more to this somehow. Let me know if you have any theories. Update. Things are pretty tense in my family right now, but at least less people are mad at me than they were before. A lot of you were correct about the marriage issues between my sister and her husband. The other night, my mum invited me over to talk about what was happening. First, she apologised for telling me she was disappointed. Her and my dad were just upset there was drama on Christmas. I apologised for picking the fight during the gift exchange because I know I definitely could have waited until later. Her and my sister have been talking a lot the past couple of days. I have yet to talk to her in person. Alicia told my mum that her husband Chris had told Alicia that I'd been flirting with him and had seduced him. I would never effing do that, so this was a pretty huge shock to hear. He'd never been weird to me, so I've always been nice, but I am in no way attracted to him. She told my mum that a couple months back, Chris said he was interested in another woman, but never said who. They'd been going to couples counselling to help, and Alicia told my mum it'd been helping. We're not sure what caused her to snap at Christmas specifically, since, beforehand, she'd told my mum things were getting better. My mum called her the night after we fought, and that's when my sister told her that I was the person that Chris had been talking about. I just don't get why he'd pretend we'd been flirting, or why she'd even believe it. I've always been open about Greg, and I can't think of the last time I've spoken to Chris without someone else being present.
I guess he wanted to avoid responsibility or something, but he didn't have to make that my issue. But the stealing comment she made towards me was because I guess she saw it as once as a coincidence, two as a pattern, and thought I was some evil bee who wanted every guy she'd ever had. When my mum called me over, she didn't think I was doing anything with Chris, but she still asked to make sure, which really hurt to be honest. It's not like I can prove that I'm not doing something, but she believes me at least. Since we talked, she's been doing damage control on all the relatives, who my sister's been telling that I was trying to steal her husband. This whole thing would have been easier if she'd just talked to me about it. My mum said she'd try to talk to Alicia and convince her that I'm not trying to steal her husband. Greg's pissed. He's pissed at my whole family pretty much, but mostly Alicia and Chris. She texted Greg yesterday, "OP only loves you because you are mine," so I guess she doesn't believe my mum? He blocked her after that. I don't know, I was hoping the reasoning would have been something else, but I'm not sure what to do. I don't know if my relationship with her can come back from this, and I absolutely refuse to be anywhere near Chris. Why'd Chris say that? Like, why claim to be cheating when you're not?
Am I the a-hole for snapping at my wife and calling her crazy because she wants me to take a paternity test for my nephew? Post by Throwaway. My wife and I have been married for 10 years, together for 14. We're child-free. I also have a nephew who's currently 13. And I'm not gonna lie, he looks a lot like me and has a lot of the same facial features as me. I'm really proud of him and we have a close bond. I've played a father role in his life since I was a kid. He has a deadbeat father and my sister divorced him a long time ago. A few of my family members have commented on how much my nephew looks a lot like me. And while I initially thought it was wholesome, my wife for some reason has become very insecure and started having doubts. She's questioning why I need to play such a prominent role in my nephew's life, why my nephew has autism, etc. The insinuations have become weird and make me uncomfortable. I agree my sister's dry humour doesn't help. During family gatherings, my sister jokes a lot about how wholesome it is that her son looks like me, and that she couldn't be happier. It's obviously a joke, but I spoke to my sister and asked if she could tone it down a bit because it was making my wife a bit crazy. However, last night, my wife asked if I could take a paternity test, just for a peace of mind. That's when I finally snapped and called her crazy, and that marrying her was the biggest mistake of my life. Whoa! Going a bit far there. I immediately regretted saying it. I absolutely didn't mean it. My wife is the love of my life. But my wife got quiet and started crying. Was I the a-hole? Update. I agreed to take the test, but under certain conditions. I understand that my wife is being paranoid and delusional, but I want to take the test just to ease whatever irrational fear she's having. I spoke to my sister about it today, and she was obviously pretty angry at my wife. However, she and I discussed it at length, and she agreed to take the test, under certain conditions. I spoke to my wife, and she was very happy that I agreed to take the test, and then I told her the conditions. The first condition was that she had to stop these insinuations immediately. My wife immediately agreed to it. The second condition was that there weren't going to be any more arguments about me spending time with my sister and nephew. We've had a few arguments over the years where she asked why I spend so much time at their house. My wife agreed to the condition, although she took some time to think about it. The third and final condition was that I had the liberty to go on vacations with my sister and nephew, without my wife being there. I told my wife up front that my sister doesn't want her to come on these vacations anymore. My wife was a bit more hesitant on this, but ultimately she agreed to it. Update 2. The results did come back, and it was as expected. However, my wife went back on her word and asked if I could revert the conditions. I just told her straight up that I'd look into divorce if she kept going on like this. My wife then freaked out and started crying and asked why I prefer my sister more. She asked if it was because she was unable to give me a baby. My wife struggles with infertility. I calmed her down and told her I was obviously not going to divorce her and to just relax. Yikes, this guy really needs to think before he speaks. You should never use the D word unless you mean it. I wonder if her insecurities actually come from him consistently saying stuff like marrying her was the biggest mistake of his life and he's going to divorce her. I told her to keep a cool head and to think rationally. and that she had to accept sooner rather than later that my sister and my nephew were always going to be part of my family. I also told her to look into individual therapy, like many people in my last post recommended. My wife was surprisingly open to it, and she accepted that she was being irrational, but that she was just afraid of losing me. So anyways, that was my final update. I think we're making good progress, and therapy should hopefully resolve whatever issues my wife is going through. Yeah, she's acting crazy. Who's jealous of a guy's sister? I wonder what she's like with any other woman in his life, like his mother, his auntie. God forbid he has any female friends or co-workers. But seriously, she is not being rational when she said she's scared of losing him, after he keeps telling her that he wants to divorce her. Am I the a-hole for leaving during my wife's labour? Post by Apocryphos. My wife went into labour about 6 PM on Sunday. We were expecting twins. It quickly turns into a very painful process. She kept cutting off the blood pressure to my hand when she squeezed, and nearly sprayed my shirt with vomit. Oh my god, each line he says makes it even worse. Around 3 AM, my dad calls. I work for my dad's company, and we had a presentation for clients Monday morning that I had to get ready for. My dad heard my wife was in labour, but told me he needed me on this presentation. He said there was nothing I could do to help my wife in the delivery, and that seeing the baby come out was overrated, and people don't prepare you for the gore. He said he needed me to rest up and make myself presentable for the presentation. My wife's labour was progressing very slowly, and we were all certain that she would need forceps or some other assistance to deliver the babies. So, in other words, a very dangerous, scary labour. I realised I couldn't help her here, and my dad was counting on me, so I told her I need to leave. She started screaming at me so loudly that a few nurses rushed over to our room. I ended up doing the presentation with the clients, and things went well. I leave the office and see a text on my phone that said my wife delivered an hour ago at around 10:30 AM, and that they had to use forceps. I would have had to miss the meeting if I stayed, and my dad has given me everything he possibly could have in life, so I didn't want to let him down. Am I the a-hole? I had responsibilities I had to take care of, and while my wife is still screaming at me that she was alone when they destroyed her body, I'm the only one who works, and her own mum said that she was being emotional and overreacting. My wife even went as far as to say that her family would disown her if she was the first of them to divorce, but that she doesn't consider me her husband right now. This has gotta be a joke post, right? I hope. Let me know what you guys think. Rage bait or devil? It's so frustrating to hear these stories about the absolute worst partners on the planet acting like complete monsters and getting away with it. Makes you wish you could get some kind of justice, doesn't it? Well, that's exactly what OP does in the next video, when a juicy opportunity falls right into his lap. Click here to see that, and thanks for watching.